What's going on, boxing fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm here to talk today about James Toney possibly going to the UFC. It's actually something that's been a bit rumored about the last couple days or so. James Toney attended UFC 108. I think the match was like Silva versus Evans. I don't watch MMA, but I think that was a match because of cable listings. But James Toney was there, and I thought I first heard the news on Saturday. I looked at kind of a Twitter update from another former boxer, Wayne McCulloch, and he said he was at UFC 108 with James Toney. I thought he was just a spectator. He was just there to watch the event. But eventually he's actually seriously considering joining the UFC. Really, my thoughts on the situation. I think that maybe Dan Goosen is really mismanaged him the last couple of years. He's really trying to push for Chris Arreola to, become a heavyweight champion. And I think he has Eddie Chambers, I'm not sure. But he does have, at least I know for a fact that he has Chris Arreola. And, now he's, a big heavyweight contender. And, now it's kind of like less focus on James Toney. I believe he did leave Goosen to the promotions back in April of 2009. They parted ways and he came back, for one fight. And, he got his weight down and everything, but, he still wasn't able to secure himself a fight. Preferably with the Klitschko brothers. James Toney has been doing all kinds of interviews, saying he wants to fight, David Haye. He said he wanted to fight Chris Arreola and the Klitschko brothers, and even went as far as to say he knew how to beat the Klitschko brothers. But now, there's really no fights that form somewhat, or fights that he can, obtain. So I guess UFC is his next option. UFC. UFC might provide the money that he wants, possibly. Because he's probably fighting for $100,000 to $200,000 a fight maybe, and now he has the potential, the star power to possibly make more if he can establish himself in the UFC. But at the same time, I really wonder how well James Toney would do in UFC. He's about 41 years old. He's a boxer, and at this age, to prepare yourself for another sport like this, especially when you have a history of not really taking care of yourself, and ballooning up in weight and stuff, and not training properly. UFC, mixed martial arts, I'm not sure if this is a sport for James Toney, especially with his fighting style, because his fighting style, James Toney's fighting style, is about slipping punches and countering. That's his fighting style. He's one of the men that use the shoulder roll almost perfectly, and pretty much almost perfected it. Him and Floyd Mayweather kind of perfected it, in the last 15-20 years. And I'll even go on to say that James Toney is one of my favorite fighters. I've been watching him for years and years, and I've been watching him since maybe the Tim Littles fight. Tim Littles, when I was a kid when that one, I was a little kid when that one came on, but it's not shocking to me, but I could, because James Toney is one of the boxers that actually did embrace MMA and kind of just said that it does provide for a lot of entertainment and stuff like that, and I did mention in a previous video that Dana White does have a good business plan. He's a very good businessman, good marketing, stuff like that. So I do think that if he does get James Toney, then he's gonna market him very well. That's just my personal opinion. But with the star power, at UFC, you have a lot of fighters that are actually pretty big, pretty big names, and James Toney could probably mix it up in the ring with some of these men. But at the same time, his fighting style. His fighting style is standing up, slipping punches, and countering. He can trade shots as well. Has a very good chin. But at the same time, there's just so much going on in MMA. You gotta defend yourself from getting tackled. You have to you're getting kicked and stuff like that. So making this transition this late in his fighting career is really isn't the best move. I think that personally, I think James Toney should just retire. Because he's not, more than likely, he's not gonna get any big fights at this age. 41 years old. He's more than likely not gonna get any big fights, anymore. He did lose to Sam Peter. I think that was his last opportunity. And he does hold like the IBA heavyweight championship when he defeated Fred-Akindo, and I thought Fred-Akindo won that matchup because I thought he was a bit more active, and so it's kind of hard for me to kind of think about this. James Toney in mixed martial arts. But at the same time, I guess it means the most money for him. So, my hat goes off to him. But, personally, I just think he needs to retire before he gets hurt, before something happens to him, because this is a different sport. This is a different, these are different techniques in MMA. And I know a lot of people are thinking, there's another man that's 40 years old, Herschel Walker, who used to play for the Dallas Cowboys, who's doing mixed martial arts for I think the company's called Strike Force. But I think he's been doing martial arts for years, and James Toney is just now kind of getting into it. So it's a lot different with James Toney because he's a boxer. So anyway, that's my thoughts on James Toney and UFC. I wish him the best. If the contract signed, I'm not gonna hold it against him because maybe it's a money situation. Maybe it means big money, but for him, he's actually seriously considering it. According to Fight Hype, I believe it's Fight Hype or FightNews.com. But anyway, thanks for watching. That was The Distance. Peace.